this worship video. I'm Monica Anthony, an elder here at Laurel Presbyterian Church. We hope that everybody is continuing to stay safe, even in this holiday season. I know it is hard to not be able to see all your friends and family that you normally like to see during this time, but we continue to remain vigilant and faithful in adhering to the restrictions in Maryland and in the counties where we live. During this time, I've been thinking a lot about a quote from Rachel Held Evans: "When you are born of the Spirit, any place can be a sanctuary." So even though we are not able to worship together in church, wherever you are right now, let it be a sanctuary for you. Every week, we remember a friend at home and a college student. This week's friend at home is Charlie Wetling, and our college student is Claire Janish. I'm sure they would enjoy a call or a card or maybe a socially distanced visit with masks through a storm door. May something in this worship video remind you of how profoundly God loves you. Let us worship together.
This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it.
This is the first Sunday of Advent, and we light one candle for hope. We are only at the beginning of our journey, but the nights are growing darker and we need light in our lives. Today we'll hear from Anna Janish, who teaches math to 7th and 8th graders in Baltimore with Teach for America, work that definitely requires strong hope. She may not see the way she is making the world better, but we always hope that God is always working, using us. We may not know the time or date when the opportunity will present itself, but we are called to keep awake and be ready. Today we light one candle and tell God what gives you hope this season. As we look ahead to the birth of Jesus, the gift of love given to us by the God who made us.
scripture reading is Mark 13, verses 32 to 37. But about that day or hour, no one knows, neither the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. Beware, keep alert, for you do not know when the time will come. It's like a man going on a journey, when he leaves home and puts his slaves in charge, each with his work, and commands the doorkeeper to be on the watch. Therefore keep awake, for you do not know when the master of the house will come, in the evening, or at midnight, or at cockcrow, or at dawn, or else he may find you asleep when he comes suddenly. And what I say to you, I say to all, keep awake.
So I'm really excited. You're the start of Advent.
Oh boy.
It's just going to be great. And you're the kickoff.
Great.
So wonderful. So I thought you could start just by telling us what it is you do. This is in Spanish.
Yes. So I am a teacher in the Baltimore City Public School System. I am in my second year teaching at Morrell Park Elementary Middle. I teach 7th and 8th grade math. Yeah, that's really what I'm doing.
And you're doing that through Teach for America?
Yes. So this is my last year, like committed, I guess you could say, to Teach for America. They are like how I'm getting certified, because in college my major wasn't education. So after college, I thought maybe education was something I wanted to go into. So it's kind of an alternate route to get your certification so that you can teach even if you don't really have if you're not what they call traditionally certified. I've been taking classes online while I've been teaching through Johns Hopkins to get my certification. So I finished that in the spring. So that's done with, thankfully. And once I'm done this year, I'll have my certification and can teach anywhere in the state of Maryland, which is cool. But I'm hoping to stay at my school. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, I really like it.
That's great.
Honestly, like applied on a whim. Like I saw a sign on campus. That's how I found out about it. And I was like, that sounds cool. And
Tell me about like your first day.
I
can remember of it. It might be a total blank.
I like try and I think that I like blacked out that day or something because oh my gosh. But I remember crying my eyes out on my way home. It was a hard day. The school I work at is in a community. They're very, very community oriented. They, especially my students, do not like new people coming in. So it's very hard to like get to know them. Took me a while. I think a lot of it too is because before I was there, my students had several different math teachers quit like during the year. So I mean, it's difficult. So I think they were kind of expecting that I was going to come in and do the same. So they didn't want to warm up to me, so it was hard. It was really hard. I mean, I pronounced so many kids' names wrong and it was just like, it was uncomfortable. It was awkward. It was weird. But I don't know. I mean, I went back the next day and tried again. So it ended up working out, but it was hard, very hard.
Each step you just were like, okay, I'll say yes. And that you went back after that first day. I just interviewed the Meister children, Emmeline and Cameron, and they talked a lot about what hope means is you have to believe things are going to change.
Yeah.
And that just really strikes me as something you very clearly trusted, that every day wasn't going to be a repeat of that first day.
No, definitely not. I mean, yeah, I think there was definitely hope that something would change because if there wasn't, there's no way I would have been able to stick out that year. And I mean, overall, they definitely ended up warming up and things like that. But I mean, I've heard from so many different people in education that like your first day is your worst day. Your first year is your worst year. Like, I mean, I've heard that so many times. So that also gave me hope that things would get better. I mean, and they definitely did. And I can't even say that I had it like the hardest. Like there was another new teacher at my school teaching 7th and 8th grade with me. She was a science teacher. And I honestly think she had it harder than I did. So I think that I don't know if that sounds like terrible, but like I kind of was looking at it like it could be worse.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that helped. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie and say that it was like easy to get through every day thinking, okay, don't worry, the next day will be better. Like there were some very hard moments in that first year, but I think I also had a really good support system around me to help keep me going through it. And I mean, even my school support system too. I really love the other staff at the school and my team, so they also definitely kept me going.
Well, and I'm really excited to hear that you plan on going back to that school.
Yes, that's the hope. My school is a little bit smaller, so I teach the entire 7th grade and the entire 8th grade. So I'm the only 7th and 8th grade math teacher.
Huh?
So the cool thing is like I get my students for 2 years. So my 7th graders last year I have now for 8th grade, so that's kind of fun. And then my new 7th graders, despite being online, are so awesome. So it makes me want to like, see them again for 8th grade and meet them in person hopefully at some point, because it's just so crazy that like, I have never actually met them. So that's something that gives me hope too, is maybe being able to actually meet them.
Mhm. And what are you hoping the difference you can make?
Um oh gosh. I That's a really hard question, honestly. Obviously I want them to learn.
Mhm.
Um, Today, actually, we do like an SEL, like a social emotional learning, like activity or check in every single day
Mhm.
before class. So today, what I had them do was I found a website where they can like send thank you letters online. So I like uploaded the list of like all of our staff's emails, and I said like pick a few teachers um, and tell them like why you're thankful that they like were in your life and stuff like that. And a couple of them sent one to me, which was so nice of them. But one of them said like thanks for what did they say? Like just thanks for creating like an environment where I look forward to coming to and being able to smile and like I can trust you and things like that. Like so just hearing that, I mean, just being I don't even know, just overall just being someone positive in their life. Like that's my end goal.
Tell me a little bit about your students.
Um, they're pretty awesome. They have their moments, but they're pretty awesome. 7th grade, I'll have like 10 of them maybe with their cameras on, but they're all like like on Zoom, you can hit the raise hand button. Like they're raising their hand all the time, participating all the time. So they're definitely very different, but what I love is like they're excited to share because they really don't have, I mean, with school being virtual, there's no social setting of school where they actually get to hang out with friends and see friends and come see teachers. Like there's so many times throughout the day in school, like they could come in before school, during lunch, after school, during recess to like see us, talk to us.
Mhm.
And now their only opportunity to do that is on the Zoom call. So that definitely changes things. So that's why we always like try and do some sort of like SEL activity. So it's not even related to our content. It's just so they can share out. So other examples we do is like, who's your role model, or like what's stressing you out today, like just random things like that, where they have the opportunity to actually share out about like how they're feeling,
Mhm.
um, and like I mean, just truly what's on their mind and what they want to share. So that's something that I think is awesome about them, is that they really do like to share with
What would you say their biggest challenges are?
not playing video games.
Yeah.
Really though, yeah, not getting distracted. And they're honest, like we try and have these like, open and real conversations where I'm like, I know you guys, some of you are probably in a room right now where you're either in bed, you're in a chair that is probably staring at a TV with maybe your video game next to it, and they're like, yeah, it's so tempting to not play video games all day. And some of them even like have said, I'm not gonna lie to you, I've played video games during your class before. And I think it's just like the distraction is so challenging. I mean, if we weren't virtual, I think I'd be telling you like what a different challenge is, but that is definitely the biggest challenge they're facing right now. And like actually turning in work online and
Mhm.
submitting stuff we work on. I mean, that is a struggle. I had many students fail first quarter because they just weren't turning things in. So that, yeah. I mean,
Do they have much parental support?
I would say it just depends on the situation. Like some of them are home alone at day, like all day while their parents go to work. Some of them just being older, like they also are responsible for watching a younger one during the day too, so that can get in the way of school. Um, but I would say the support is there, like in the background, like obviously trying to keep their um, family going because they're going to work and stuff like that. But during the school day, typically there are no parents home. So I think that's also hard, is because it's the kid's responsibility to learn, basically, which is hard to ask a middle school student.
Yes. What has surprised you the most?
um, I think this year at least, how much I love my seventh graders when considering we're virtual, because like I don't know, I mean they always make me laugh. Like even today, on our call, like we stayed on for like an extra few minutes because they were just like chatting and joking around. Or I do coach class, which is like after school help a couple times a week. So they will, like, some of them, if they want to come, will join my call. And like for example, last week I only seventh graders joined, and we finished what we were working on, and they were like, "Can we learn algebra?" And I was like,
Oh,
sure. So I started teaching them some algebra. And then they were like, then they wanted to do a Kahoot, which maybe you've heard of that. It's like an online little quiz you can do.
yeah.
So I found an algebra Kahoot, and we did an algebra Kahoot, and we like literally stayed on the call for, I think my coach class ends at 4, and we were on to like 4:45 probably.
Yeah.
And I get on at 3, so they were like voluntarily doing more work until after school because they wanted to learn algebra. So that was pretty cool.
That that gives me hope.
Yeah.
Right
Me
there.
too.
So, so the scripture is about keep awake, and it's been interpreted over the years to mean keep awake because Jesus is coming. But it seems to me that it's also an invitation to stay awake to the moments so that you can recognize the moments when God is using you to make a
Okay.
difference.
Yes, for sure. So yeah, I mean, to just interpret it quite literally. I mean, there are days where I don't want to log on and teach. There are definitely days where I don't want to do that. I'm quite honestly tired of virtual learning. Not that I think the solution is just to immediately go shove back into a school building, but I'm tired of virtual learning. So there's definitely days where I don't want to get on. I feel like I need a break, but I mean, I still do it anyways. And usually, I mean, there's some type of reason that I'm like, this is why I got on today and I did what I did today. Um, I mean, one of like the examples that just comes to mind is when during like none of it really ever relates to math, but that's okay.
No, that's
During like our SEL check-ins, like there's always things that our students are sharing, and I mean they're not always the easiest things to talk about. Like they're open with what's going on in their home lives, their personal lives, and things like that. Students feel like comfortable enough and like they're in a safe place where they can actually share out. And even if it's not necessarily for the whole group, like on Zoom you can private message or do something like that. When they actually do that, it makes me think, well, if I wasn't here today, then they may not have been able to share that with someone. And it just makes you wonder, like, how would they have like how would they have sat with that? Like,
yeah.
one of the teachers at my school I like co-teach with, I guess you could call it, in the afternoon, and then we switch and she does the same while I teach math. And we always joke with like the seventh grade that we've like created our own little like family because we're on the call all together for so long. Because so those classes are usually like the ones where they're sharing out, and it just shows that like they're comfortable in the moment with myself and my co-teacher, and maybe there isn't someone else in their life that they can speak to, but they feel comfortable enough to speak to us. And I think that also just helps keep me going and stay awake, or keep awake, however you might say it, because um, I don't want to say that like my students need me, but they do rely on me to show up. So, right. Yeah, I would say I hear about like um one thing that's exactly coming to mind is we did an SEL check-in that was like, if you could have one wish, what would you wish for? And it couldn't be more wishes. And like some of them were saying, I wish my parents would get back together. Things like that. I wish my parents would stop fighting. I wish some of them are really sweet too. Like, I wish I could make money so my mom doesn't have to work so hard. Um, some of them said, I wish I could be my mom for a day so I could see everything that she goes through. Things like that. And some of them get definitely a little bit more deep, but it's like nice to, I guess, hear what they're thinking.
Yeah. And you're right, they do rely on you. They to be a constant, to show up. And I love how you can build such a relationship with them. And no wonder you want to go back. You're spending all day with them.
Yes. Yeah, no. So I think it'd be hard to leave them at this point. You're right. It's like so crazy to think that I could build like these strong relationships over Zoom, but I mean it's happening. So it's awesome. I mean, we like joke around all the time. Like, it's funny, it's fun. I mean, it makes getting on a computer easier.
Yeah.
And it makes me have hope that I'll eventually get to actually experience what they're like in person.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think just you sharing all of this, and especially about how close the relationships are that you're forming, even though it's on Zoom, that's going to give a lot of people hope, because I know a lot of people, whether or not they have kids in school right now, are wringing their hands thinking this is horrible, this is awful. And you're sharing hope that in spite of everything, there are ways to connect. And
yeah, there are. It's like, it's interesting because I don't always look at it that way. I mean, this has just become my normal everyday life. I log on a computer and funny things happen, and I build relationships, and we teach math, and then we move on. Like, so sometimes I don't really stop to think that these moments that I'm sharing with them are actually probably so impactful, because I know there's some of them that if their parents or family are a lot of them live in like multi-generational households, I guess is the term you could use, where it's not only their parents that live there, but their grandparents do too. And so they're a little bit more careful about COVID. And I'm sure some of them aren't as careful, but those students, like, they quite literally sit inside all day. They aren't allowed to see friends. So I think coming to school is like the only virtual school is like the only experience they get to really talk to their friends and see other people. And that is definitely something like to acknowledge, I guess, because that's a little bit hopeful.
Well, and they're engaging.
Yeah, most of the time. I'm just not talking about the ones who aren't engaged.
Well, sometimes
there are those.
Yeah, you have to rely on the ones who are engaged to kind of help you.
I do, and that's the thing. I always tell my 7th grade class that I swear I'm a better teacher for them, because they have their cameras on, they're engaging with me, so it makes it so much easier for me to, like, I mean, just relax and speak back to them.
Well, and you're speaking about how important connection is and how to form community.
Yeah, I mean, that's like I truly think, connection and relationship building is like the only thing that, I shouldn't say the only thing, one of the most important things in this virtual learning experience. And I think a lot of teachers out there have realized that, and how important that is just in general, not necessarily on virtual learning, but just like how to connect, because it's so different virtually.
Yeah. Says is how we learn is through connection.
I watched a TED talk, and I can't remember who it was, but it was something on education, and her quote was like, children don't learn from people they don't like. They're not gonna, if you don't build a relationship with them, and I've seen that in so many of my students. They're these students that are just harder to get to know, and I mean, if you don't spend the time to actually get to know them, then they're not going to give you the time of day when they're in your classroom.
Is there anything else you'd like to say about hope?
Gosh, I mean, honestly, this has made me realize like how much hope I see every day, you know, without even realizing it. But I mean, you're right, with all of like, with everything going on with COVID and just all of the, I guess you could say, negative and bad things in the world, in virtual learning can sometimes feel like one of those things. There are definitely good things happening. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I would much rather be in a school building, COVID free, preferably. But you know, there are still good things happening, and I do sometimes just like sit here and worry because, you know, there's always that worry that they're not learning, and you know, in this virtual environment. But at the end of the day, at least I know that some of them, hopefully most of them, are at least getting something out of my class. May not be math, I hope it is a little bit math, but they're hopefully walking away with like a smile, or I don't even know, that sounds cheesy, but walking away with something like, I don't know,
With something positive.
yeah, with something. That's a good way to say it, with something positive, whatever that may be for that day. But
I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me virtually, spend more time on the screen.
No problem.
For Sunday.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
It was such a joy to interview Anna Janisch, and it gave me such hope. I hope it gives you hope as well, as you heard her story, saw her poise and her enthusiasm for this work she's doing, and how God is working in her and through her. And now in Advent, for the children's sermon, each Sunday I'm going to interview some different children about the theme. And this week's theme is hope, this first Sunday of Advent. And so I interviewed Cameron and Emmeline Meister. I hope you enjoy and get some insights about hope. They also made me very hopeful.
Did you know Advent is Sunday? I mean, it's coming up really fast. And each Sunday in Advent, we have a theme. And the theme for this Sunday is hope. And so I wanted to find out what you guys thought about hope. What do you think hope is?
I think hope is something someone believes in.
Something someone believes in?
Like someone thinks you can get through this, like this pandemic.
Okay, so someone can get through this. It's more that you'll have the strength to get through the pandemic. How about for you, Emmeline?
I agree that hope means you have to believe. But I think that believing also means you have to believe in it change and stuff.
So you have to believe that things can change. Oh, so that things aren't always going to be like this.
Yeah.
Do you have an idea of how it's different from wishing?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that they're very similar because hope is something that you're thinking and just believing can happen, and wishing is similar. Wishing has hope in it, but for wishing, you have to think about it most of the time, because this actually happened. One time in kindergarten, there was this raffle for Jeannie B. Jones books, and I really wanted to. I put my name in once, and all the time I had my fingers crossed. I was just hoping and thinking. And on the day they announced the winner, they called my name. They just said Emmeline, and I was like, is it another Emmeline, or is it me? But I just jumped up and down, and everyone in my class cheered for me, and I just felt happy.
Oh, that's a great story. It sounds like hope is something you kind of have to hold on to.
Yeah, you can't let it go in the middle of something. Hold on to hope for a long time. You don't want to throw away what you hope. because if you throw away what you hope, it's basically saying, I give up.
Okay, that's really well put. That's really well put. Because people right now, I think, are feeling really discouraged. And especially with the pandemic and it's holidays and we're not getting to celebrate the way we are used to. Like, are you getting to see grandparents?
We're probably going to FaceTime them tomorrow, but we're not going to see them in person.
Yeah.
Because this year we usually would go to our grandparents' house for Christmas, but this year we can't do that.
Yeah. And so what are you hoping?
I'm hoping that maybe our new year it might change, or maybe sometime in 2020 it will change. Because my mom told me they were working really hard on a vaccine and they're like this close, and that it's going to take them about 1 more year to get it fully working. So I'm just hoping that it happens soon. That way, if we stay safe this whole year, next year it might make a difference.
Yeah.
I also have hope that they can make a vaccine and it's safe for people. But if people don't want to take it, it could not work because everyone in the whole entire world has to have it or it just continues.
Yeah, so that's a hope too, right? That everybody will take it.
Like, you have to hope someone takes it, because if they don't, the pandemic will continue on.
Yeah.
Hope and prayer have something to do with each other, because hope, like we said before, it means you have to believe and you have to have change. And part of believing is you have to do something to try and convince others to believe. And prayer, I think, helps believing and hope.
You know, I love that you keep saying that hope means that you have to, and I'm going to use the word trust. You said believe, but it's kind of the same, that things will change. Because we know things always change, but sometimes when it's gone on this long, it's hard to remember. So I love that you're combining those two, hope and change. That's really great.
I also think that they're similar because if you believe in something, you can try, and if you don't work, it's like if you try something and it doesn't work and they're going to do it next year, you could do it next year.
Okay.
It's like you try, like the same, try again.
Yeah. So hope has to do with something we do, right? We keep trying, and we keep trying because we have hope.
If you don't try to make change, or if you don't try to believe, and you just think or you know that it's going to change, but you don't believe, like some people, I think, might not believe that COVID is going to change. You have to hope people think they start to believe in coronavirus is real. Some people think it's a big joke, which it isn't.
You're right. You're right about that. And so that's one of our hopes and prayers, right? We can say those two things together, that people will start understanding. Is there anything else you want to tell me about hope?
Hope can seem like something people believe in and that they trust. And they can also trust God and to hope that they can pull through this. I think another thing about hope is change, trust. There's a lot of things that you need in order to hope. You need to believe that that life can change. You need to trust that God will help us, and you need to hope that things will go good, like things will go your way.
Because sometimes I have trouble hoping. You know, you get tired, right?
You're tired of hoping, and you just want it all to be over.
Right. You know, one of the things that helps me hold on to hope is having conversations like this. Like, you guys have helped me so much. It makes me really happy because I've missed seeing you all. And it's so good to be able to have a conversation, even though we can't hug each other and we can't be inside together. So thank you, because it's cold out here, but you guys came out and talked with me about hope.
It's better to be safe than sorry. So you have to be safe right now, and you have to stay home, and you have to do things you wouldn't normally do, like school. Sometimes I think instead of working on a vaccine, they should be working on something. Like in my head, I feel like they should be working on a time machine so they could go forwards in time and get the vaccine. But that won't work because they were spending all their time on a time machine. If they went forwards in time, they would be where they were. The vaccine would just still be where it was.
Like there wouldn't even have a vaccine because they were working on a time machine. There wasn't even something. But if they made something like two things where one person went back in time and they didn't, like one person went forwards in time, the other went back to work on a vaccine, then when the people go back and forwards in time, they can grab the vaccine and then come back to the right time.